اللهم صل على محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأجساد وشفائها ونور الأبصار وجلائها وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم.
بسم الله أوله وآخره. Nabi Isa alayhi salam who was crucified? Was it Nabi Isa alayhi salam? Or was it his youngest student, or was it Judith? I don't know who is Judith. Dr. Umar Zai will have to tell me who is Judith. However, my answer is no one was crucified. Because I don't buy the theory of the jumbo jet coming out of the Vatican. I don't buy the theory of substitution. No. But I did say to you, if that's your choice, that's your choice. But you're going to have to answer to Allah on Judgment Day. Because only Allah can do it. He is fa'alul lima yurid. You were saying that Allah caused someone else to take on the appearance of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And that person was crucified who was innocent of ever having made a claim to be the Messiah. It's an act of injustice. So if you want to hold on to the theory of substitution, that's your choice, but you're going to have to answer on Judgment Day. I reject the theory of substitution, and I hope you respect my choice. So my choice is no one was crucified. No one was crucified. An attempt was made to crucify Nabi Isa alayhi salam, but it did not succeed. And I explained to you why it did not succeed, what it is that actually happened. What is your basis for believing? I can't answer all these questions. I'll need a whole one day to answer all of these questions, okay? So I have to choose. What is your basis for believing that Nabi Isa alayhi salam and Dajjal in person and Imam al-Mahdi about 20-30 years away from now? Is it just the Lake of Galilee? I actually stick my neck out. And in the process, I become vulnerable to being attacked. When I make this prognosis, when I make this calculation, the reason why I'm saying 20 to 30 years from now is because I don't want you to believe that it's 200 or 300 years from now. That's why. I want you to get some feel of the urgency of time. And so feel of the moment in which you are now located, that is not far from now. I calculate that a day like a year was a long period of time. When the world experienced, among other things, Pax Britannica. And that a day like a month was a shorter period of time, in which the world experienced, among other things, Pax Americana. I'm a student of international relations, and therefore I have to explain Pax Britannica and Pax Americana. And I assume that Pax Judaica is going to succeed Pax Americana. Namely, Judaism is going to return to the world as the perfect religion. And mankind is going to be seduced into returning with the Jews to this golden age when the truth will once more come to clean up all the rubbish in the world. That's coming. Pax Judaica. And the Pax Judaica will be in the world for the briefest period of time. And it is at the end of Pax Judaica that Dajjal will have his khuruj. I calculate that it is only Allah who will determine when Imam al-Mahdi will make his appearance. It's Allah who will decide. And Allah will not send Imam al-Mahdi into the world to inform and declare to the world, I am the Imam. The Imam could be there. Nobody would know that he is the Imam. Maybe he himself would not know until Allah informs him. But the public declaration that I am the Imam al-Mahdi cannot take place until Dajjal has declared, I am the Messiah. Because if he declares, I am Imam al-Mahdi, every Jew and every Zionist know about the hadith on Imam al-Mahdi. Some of them know him better than you all. And so nobody is going to accept him as Dajjal, as the Mahdi. Sorry. Nobody is going to accept him as the Messiah. No one. Until he attacks and he kills Imam al-Mahdi. Because here is the man who declared, I am the Mahdi. And this man has come out of Medina, not Istanbul and Ankara. You know the one out there who declares he is the Imam al-Mahdi? And this man has stood up at the Kaaba and declared, I am the Mahdi. And the army has attacked him from Sham, and the earth has sunk down and the army has been swallowed, confirming this is the Imam al-Mahdi. So no one will accept Dajjal as the true Messiah until he attacks and he kills Imam al-Mahdi, which he can't do. So for me, my choice is to believe that the declaration of the advent of Imam al-Mahdi cannot come until Dajjal has declared himself to be the Messiah. Only after that would the Imam declare himself to be the Imam. Okay. And so the question now remains is, how much time do we have left before Dajjal will declare to be the Mahdi, to be the Messiah? And therefore, how much time do we have left before Israel will rule the world for a day which is like a week, during which time two important things must occur. Number one is the Malhama, and number two is the conquest of Constantinople. These are the two major events. The hadith is in the Sunan of Abi Dawood. The hadith is that the Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, he said, Umranu Bayt al-Maqdis kharabu Yathrib. At that time, when Bayt al-Maqdis or Jerusalem is going to be built up, flourishing, center stage, Yathrib will be in a state of desolation. A scholar from Jordan contacted me to say, more than that, Sheikh. Over there the buildings are going up, and over here the buildings are crumbling. They're destroying them. Kharabu Yathrib, Khuruj al-Malhama. When Yathrib is in a state of desolation, which it is today, that will be the time when the Malhama will take place, the Great War. Khuruj al-Malhama, Fathul Constantiniya. When the Great War takes place, that will be followed by the conquest of Constantinople. Fathul Constantiniya, Khuruj al-Dajjal. The conquest of Constantinople will then be followed by the advent of Dajjal. The release of Dajjal in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ is different from the khuruj of Dajjal which now takes place. I have made a calculated guess, and I can be wrong. But I see no harm in putting a figure of 20, 25, 30 years. Because if I'm wrong, it won't be by much. And by doing this, I'm able to impress upon you, it's not 200 or 300 years from now. I'm not the only one. There's so many other scholars in the world of Islam, so why pick on Imran Hosein? So many other scholars are saying, the Imam is already born. Probably have his birth certificate, some of them. Imam al-Mahdi is already born. We know where he is. Scholars of Islam are saying that, not me. Okay? So why pick on me? I am saying about 20, 25, 30 years from now, as a calculated guess, in order to impress upon you, it's not a long time from now. Regarding the stoning to death, the abrogation of the punishment of stoning to death in the Quran, I believe I have spoken on the subject with clarity. And I do also have a lecture on the subject on YouTube. The punishment for adultery in the religion of Abraham alayhi salam. So I'm not going to entertain any more questions on the subject of abrogation for zina. Please refer to that lecture of mine. Now to the more interesting questions now. I know you've asked a lot of questions about methodology, about muhkamat and mutashabihat and all of these things. But these questions have been answered, and I can continue to answer them in my lectures and in my books. How do we go back to the true model of an Islamic state? And how can we restore the Sunnah economy? If you study ilmu akhirul zaman, you will study Dajjal. And when you study Dajjal, you will better be able to recognize his shirk. There's a hadith which is quoted in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, that it will be more difficult to recognize his shirk than it would be to recognize a black ant on a black rock in the darkness of the night. Okay? Very difficult. I say, and there's a chapter of Jerusalem in the Quran which deals with the subject, that the modern model of a state which came out of Western Europe, not Eastern Europe, out of Western civilization, the modern model of a state, for which the Khilafah state had to be destroyed, that modern model of a state, the modern secular state, is built very firmly on the foundations of shirk. It no longer recognizes Allah as Al-Malik, the sovereign. The state is Al-Malik. It no longer recognizes Allah as Al-Hakam, the supreme lawgiver. The state is Al-Hakam. It can take what Allah has made haram and make it halal. It's done it already. It can take what Allah has made halal and make it haram. It's done it already. What more do you need? What more do you need to recognize that when you vote in the elections for the modern secular state, you are validating Dajjal's model of a state. You are entering into shirk. And 999 out of every 1,000 in Akhiru Zaman are going into the hellfire. Sorry for raising my voice there, but that is Sahih Bukhari. 999 out of every 1,000 in Akhiru Zaman, because Gog and Magog is there, are going into the hellfire. You can only say 999 out of every 1,000 into the hellfire if you are Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim and Al-Ghaffar. You can only do it if it's because of shirk. Because Allah will forgive all sins except shirk. So the modern secular state is built on shirk. Can I destroy that modern secular state today around the world? Be realistic. I cannot. And so what do? I say, if I cannot establish Islam authentically at the macro level, let me do it at the micro level. If you have a better answer, let me hear your answer. Hizb ut-Tahrir says it is possible to do it at the macro level. I say, go ahead. I'm not stopping you. Go ahead. I never stopped you. But because of my knowledge of ilm akhir zaman, I come to the conclusion it's not possible at this time at the macro level. But 20, 25 years from now, they're going to be running. And they're going to be hiding behind trees and stones 20, 25 years from now. When Imam al-Mahdi returns, he's going to be our Imam. كَيْفَ أَنْتُمْ إِذَا نَزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ نُمَرْيَمْ وَإِمَامُكُمْ مِنْكُمْ. So the Khilafah is returning. The Khilafah state is returning. It is a state which recognizes Allah as Al-Malik, like Holy Israel. It recognizes Allah as Al-Hakam, the supreme lawgiver, as Holy Israel. And what Allah has made haram, the Khilafah state enforces as haram. And what Allah has made halal, the Khilafah state enforces as halal. That is coming. And it will come with Imam al-Mahdi. But my position is, because Gog and Magog control power in the world, it cannot come before that. So if I cannot establish Allah's deen, iqamatud deen, if I cannot establish it at the macro level, then I say, at least let me establish it at the micro level. And that's the Muslim village.
Questions from the third session.
We got 24 minutes left. A question on Islamic finance, and we have some of you who have come specially for Islamic finance. So methodology can wait. What is the role of Islamic finance in the study of ilm akhir zaman? We have people here who are doing their PhDs in Islamic finance, and some are doing their masters in Islamic finance. So we have some interesting participants here today. I think that's the biggest battleground of all, finance. Because Dajjal is attacking on two fronts, both riba. He's attacking through the banking system. And you should read John Perkins' Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And you should read that book written by the British Sheikh. What's the name of the Sheikh? William Shakespeare. What's the name of the book? Merchant of Venice. It's the best book on riba you could ever read. Because sometime when the money lends you money on interest, he does so because, as Shakespeare so beautifully put it, it's your pound of flesh that he wants. John Perkins has explained it. Sometimes they lend you money on interest so they can become rich at your expense. But other times they lend you money on interest so that they can enslave you. That is one of the part of the subject. But that's not the monetary economics. That's not the finance. The other part of the subject is the finance part, where the International Monetary Fund prohibits the use of gold as money. Allah has made the dinar halal. He mentions the dinar in the Quran. And the dinar is not made of paper. A dinar is of gold. If Allah makes something halal and you make it haram, what is that sin called? It's called shirk. Why are you afraid to say so? If Allah makes something halal and you make it haram, that is shirk. And if I follow you in what you have done, then I also commit shirk. The International Monetary Fund, set up so skillfully by the Zionists, through Bretton Woods, the Bretton Woods Conference of upstate New York, the International Monetary Fund prohibited the use of gold as money in order to pave the way for the monetary system of bogus and fraudulent paper currencies to take control of the world. That system of bogus and fraudulent paper currencies have been used to bring about the most massive transfer of wealth in human history. The most massive and unjust transfer of wealth in human history, from the unsuspecting masses to a global predatory, blood-sucking elite. Somebody just reminded me, Sheikh, you used to use this language 10 years ago. And that massive transfer of wealth is still taking place. And yet you're going to apply to the IMF for a loan on interest? And don't you have any sense? My book entitled The Gold Dinar and Silver Dirham, Islam and the Future of Money, is only 50-something pages long. Deliberately so. So you have no excuse for reading it, for not reading it. What do we do? When you understand that to take a piece of paper, to print a picture on it, to put a number on it, and then to assign to that piece of paper an entirely fictitious value, is haram. Only Allah creates wealth out of nothing. And for you to attempt to create wealth out of nothing is shirk. So long as we remain attached to the world of paper currencies, which is now on its way out, and to the electronic monetary system or the digital monetary system which is coming to replace it, it's already there, we are going to be trapped in a money system of the world that they created and they control and they use to their advantage unjustly. We're going to be trapped in the equivalent of a financial Guantanamo. What do we do? This is what I could not complete in the last session. Answer. When you know that you have abandoned the Quran and the Sunnah, make tawbah. Tawbah means to turn around. And return to the Quran and to the Sunnah that you've abandoned. The dinar is in the Quran. Somebody should tell Bank Negara that for me, please. The National Bank. The dirham is in the Quran. So return to the dinar and the dirham. And returning to the dinar and dirham means returning to it in your pocket, not in a vault in some bank. and use the dinar and dirham for buying and for selling. So if you want to build a hut in our Muslim village, you'll have to pay for it with dinar and dirham. So that hut would be halal. Is it possible for you to have a market in which you can use dinar and dirham for buying and selling? They won't allow it. Not in the cities. I don't think it's possible. But in the remote countryside, in a Muslim village, I say yes, it is possible. At least try it. So at least we will be trying at the micro level to return to Islam. We will be trying at the micro level to be a people who will be sincerely following the Quran and Sunnah. At least at the micro level. And if we are not allowed to do that in a remotely located village and they send the army and the police against us, we go to hide in a mountain. But we're not going to give up Islam. We prefer to hide in a cave in a mountain, but we're not going to join your godless society. This is the price you have to pay if you want to hold on to Islam. Would you kindly explain to us how could those in power attack the currency in order to make those who have it poor? When they created the monetary system of paper currencies, the money that you now have in the world is money which does not have intrinsic value. The value of the money is not inside the money. No. The value of the money that Allah gave to us is intrinsic. It is value created by Allah. So if you want to rob me, you're going to have to come and put your hand in my pocket and take my money out of my pocket. But if I'm using money which does not have intrinsic value, then they can manipulate the value of that money by remote control. You know how you turn on your television? You don't have to go anymore and touch some knob on the television. You can sit on your sofa and there's a little machine and you press a knob and the television goes on. Remote control. Huh? Well, that's what they do. It's by remote control. And there are many, many different ways by which they can bring down the value of your money. And as they attack you and they cause the value of your money to decrease and decrease and decrease, there is a massive transfer of wealth from the unsuspecting masses to a predatory elite. In my book entitled The Prohibition of Riba in the Quran and Sunnah, I've actually given the example of what they did in the United States in 1933, was it, Muhammad? 33? When the American government banned the use of gold as money. So maybe if you go on my website you'll be able to find that book. So the answer is they do it by remote control. They can manipulate prices. They can keep the price of gold artificially high now and bring it down later. And they can keep the price of silver artificially low now and bring it up later. Because it's no longer a free and a fair market. What's the explanation of the present political situation in the Middle East and what's going to happen next? Why have the Zionists and the media worked together to kill the revolution in Bahrain, but to allow it to take place in Egypt and Libya? Egypt did not experience a revolution. Egypt experienced an uprising. and the uprising made way for what is known as musical chairs, to change one and replace him by another. Yeah, that's what happened in Egypt. And many Egyptians are now beginning to realize we were taken for a ride. The political situation in the Middle East now, as I mentioned earlier, is that an Arab Spring has occurred, which we anticipated 10 years ago. And the Arab Spring has occurred in order to give to Israel, eventually, casus bellum, a cause for waging war that will make Israel appear to be doing something which is just. The Arab Spring is meant to bring to power Islamic movements, Islamic governments, and then make these Islamic movements and Islamic governments appear to be agents of terrorism. And then get the world to be frightened and scared. And when you control the media, it's not too difficult. That Islam now menaces the world. Mankind is being menaced by Islam. When Israel and the Zionists succeed in brainwashing mankind, and you know Dajjal has his army of warriors, don't you? Dajjal's warriors are those so-called mujahideen who have eyes and yet cannot see. So when Dajjal tells them, rise up and fight, they go to Syria and they fight. When Dajjal tells them, rise up and fight, they go to Libya and to fight. Dajjal's warriors. When Dajjal's warriors take over the areas around Israel, then the media will be able to portray these as bloodthirsty Muslims who pose a great threat to mankind. And therefore Israel will be acting not only on its own behalf, but on behalf of mankind, in saving mankind from this menace, from the threat of Islam that is a bloodthirsty religion. And then Israel can wage the wars that are already pre-planned. I explained this 10, 11 years ago. This is what's now happening. I would go on to say that I expect that the next move on the chessboard is likely to be an attack on Syria launched by Turkey. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. I wish I'm wrong. But if they succeed and they get the Turkish armed forces to launch an attack on Syria, the Turkish armed forces could say, we're doing this on behalf of Sunni Islam, and use an attack on Syria to further ignite Sunni Shia civil war in Islam. I think, and I suspect, that is the master plan. To provoke Sunni Shia civil war, not just to take over Syria. And that Sunni Shia civil war, if it takes place, that's goodbye to Pakistan. The target is Pakistan, because Pakistan is the only Muslim country with nuclear weapons. And Israel cannot wage her great wars while there is a threat that Muslims can respond with a credible weapon, nuclear weapons. So Pakistan has to be attacked and denuclearized. The nuclear plants have to be destroyed. I wrote a Muslim response to the attack on America, there it is, 11 years ago. And in that booklet I mentioned this analysis, 11 years ago. When Pakistan is attacked and the nuclear plants are destroyed, the nuclear weapons are destroyed, then in order to ensure that Pakistan should never rise again to become a nuclear power, you're going to have to break up Pakistan into bits and pieces. But if that's the fate awaiting Pakistan, a similar fate awaits Egypt. A similar fate awaits Egypt. Because they have to take all that territory from the River Nile to the Euphrates and occupy it and make it part of the Holy Land. So what are you going to do with the Egyptian people? They're going to rise up. They're going to build themselves again into a formidable force. So in order to prevent that, you're going to have to break up Egypt into bits and pieces. And you're going to have to control them piecemeal. The Zionists in Libya controlling one part. The Zionists from Israel controlling another part. And then you have the south of the Sudan, which has now allied itself with Zionism, with Israel. So Israel will be attacked from three sides. Egypt will be attacked from three sides, and you have a blockade on the sea from the Mediterranean. A naval blockade. So there's no hope for Egypt. These are events that I see in the political landscape. The economic landscape is economic slavery. And the financial landscape is a financial Guantanamo. Isn't it not time for the world of Islamic scholarship to wake up? I'm doing my little piece, my little bit. But you have the work to do beyond when Allah calls me away. To do what you can to wake up the world of Islamic scholarship. Do we have any time for questions from the floor? Okay. 2018 for goodbye for the dollar. I didn't think it'd last that long. And 2025 for one world government when Israel takes over. Okay, that's interesting. Yes? Kashif, is it?
Yes.
Kashif.
You had mentioned about the next political move that is happening. Nowadays in the news we constantly hear about Israel threatening Iran. Is that the main target, or is that just a ruse? Is that just something to distract? Just curious. And if that happens, is that something going to set the whole region aflame?
I have a lecture which I designed with great care. The Sunni, the Shia, and Akhiru Zaman. It's on YouTube, on my website, in which I have looked at the origin of the Shia movement. And I did it very carefully, and I did it with very courteous language. Very courteous language, yeah. Yes. And I did point out that someone took them for a ride when they came with this theory of hereditary succession, and that the leadership role is restricted to the family of the Prophet ﷺ. But I did say that when they stood up at Karbala, this was the most authentic expression of Islam on the face of the earth at Karbala. It stood up refusing to compromise in the face of oppression. This is Karbala. And there's unfinished business on the battlefield of Karbala. And when Imam al-Mahdi comes, that unfinished business will be finished. So I paid the utmost tribute to those who died at Karbala. But their sacrifice was hijacked. And this came into being, which is an inauthentic expression of Islam. And of course, many Shia were annoyed with me. Many Shia. But I think that when the attack on Iran does take place, it will not be basically because of any nuclear threat from Iran. No. It is because they want to bring about regime change in Iran. They want to bring about a change of the regime, because this regime in Iran and Islam has taught us to put a good meaning to things until you have evidence to the contrary. So when Iran overtly supports the cause of the Palestinians, when Iran publicly opposes Israel, when Iran enters and seeks an alliance with Russia, doing all the things which others are not doing, okay? We accept these things at face value. We put a good meaning. This is a regime, therefore, in Iran that they would like to change. And an attack on Iran would be for the purpose of bringing about such regime change that you'll have a regime in Iran which would betray Islam and enter into an alliance with Israel, similar to the monstrous betrayal of those who control power in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has today become an open ally of Israel. Qatar has today become an open ally of Israel. These are not Sunni states. These are the people who have betrayed Allah and His Messenger. That's what they want in Iran. Yes, Kinan from Syria. Last question, Kinan, you're lucky.
Thank you very much. My question is in regards to Dabbatul Ard.
Dabbatul Ard.
The hadith of Tamim al-Dari goes to great detail in explaining the physical appearance of Dabbatul Ard, where you cannot tell its front from its end. It's covered with
The hadith of Tamim al-Dari. No. Hadith of Tamim al-Dari speaks about the Jassasa.
Okay.
That's different from the Dabbatul Ard. Okay, go ahead.
So the Dabbatul Ard, in one of your lectures, I'm confused about the concept of between Jassasa and Dabbatul Ard.
Okay.
So if you can just explain.
Okay. Jassasa wala tajassasu. Suratul Hujurat. Wala tajassasu. Jassasa. Someone who spying. So the island where Dajjal is going to be located when he's released, and this is the book that deals with that subject, Jerusalem in the Quran. That island is an island with expertise in espionage, spying, James Bond kind of stuff. And I identified it as Britain. But Dabbatul Ard is another subject. And that is located in the Quran, Dabbatul Ard. The ahadith on Dabbatul Ard are so few that it is difficult to get a handle on the subject. I expressed an opinion that Dabbatul Ard, or the creature, the beast of the Holy Land, is the state of Israel. But this is my opinion. And I warned you not to accept my opinion, didn't I? Until you're convinced that it is correct. But Sheikh Safar al-Khawari, Saudi Arabia, who is a sheikh I respect, he's a man who thinks, he's a man with insight. That's why he went to jail. Sheikh Safar wrote a book entitled Yawmul Ghadab. And in that book he says, this is my opinion, that the Dabbatul Ard is a Zionist movement. Between his opinion and my opinion is a line as short as this. Our two views are almost the same. But we are expressing an opinion. We can be right, we can be wrong, and Allah knows best. Okay?
Allah fahab li tawbata wa ufir dhunubi fa innaka ghafiru dhanbil azim ilahi lasdu lil firdausi ahla wa la dari itu kurniakanlah ampunan kepadaku, ampunkanlah dosaku. Sesungguhnya Engkaulah pengampun dosa-dosa besar. Tuhanku, aku tidak layak untuk syurgamu, tetapi aku tidak pula sanggup menanggung siksa nerakamu. Dari itu kurniakanlah ampunan kepadaku, ampunkanlah dosaku. Sesungguhnya Engkaulah pengampun dosa-dosa besar. Ilahi lastulil firdausi a'la wala aqwa ala naril jahim. Allah fahabli tawbatan waghfir dhunubi fa innaka ghafiru dhanbil azim. Ilahi lastu lil firdausi a'la wala aqwa ala naril jahim. Allah fahabli ta'ala